Good morning, everyone. I am Maggie, and welcome back to my happy place here at Brimble Blossom. It's been a minute. Life is crazy sometimes, but I thought this morning what I would like to do is take a little bit of a walk through my garden and show you all some things that are happening. Some of them good, some of them not so good. Because, well, that happens. And just kind of talk about some maintenance, some things that can be done for example, one of the things that I'm going to show you is some of my leafy green stuff has started to go to seed, something that you can do to prolong their lifespan before they go to seed. And then I'm going to show you a mess that went all the way to seed, and I did not manage that well. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit about my tomatoes and kind of what's going on out here now and what will be happening soon and all of that good stuff. So I'm going to start at the back here, and we'll just kind of move our way closer to the front as we go along. So back here, I decided against okra. I think I had said something at one point about doing okra back here in one of the other videos, and I decided against that. So I have my peppers back and making a big old shadow back here, and then I have a row of like broccoli and cauliflower, and then I have some pole beans here on this back portion. Down here, I decided to try, because I have yet to grow an actual head of broccoli, so I decided to grow some sprouting broccoli, and as you can see, it's a mess of yellow flowers, and these funky little spiky guys here will that focus? Yes, those are, they will get bigger, like like this, and that's seed pods. And so when those dry out, we will have lots and lots of broccoli, sprouting broccoli seed pods. So I won't have to buy seeds anymore, even though this was a complete disaster. At least I had stocked up on seeds for a while. So that's a mess, and I didn't manage that well. But at least I'll have seeds for a long, long time. So there's that. It's not a complete loss. And then I do have peas right up here against the trellis right now. They're starting to have some wilt issues down at the bottom, but I anticipated that would be the fact. And so that's why I have my pole beans going down just a little ways out from that. So as those peas are petering out, we will have beans taking their place, and I'm gonna try and squeeze through. I have a red raspberry bush here, and then I have two very, very large elderberries that got way bigger than I anticipated, way faster than I anticipated. So I'm going to try and squeeze through here, and we'll take a walk down the middle of this panel. I have, let's see if I can not make everyone sick. And so I have some Swiss chard over here, and some kale, and some Japanese red mustard down here, and it has started to go to seed. It started to bolt. And so one of the things that you can do when that happens is you can just pinch off the flowers or the buds, and you can prolong the life of your stuff. It has been hot and dry, and these leafy things don't love that so much, so they tend to bolt pretty quickly. My spinach is a disaster. But I am just kind of leaving it there until it dries out. I think there's one. Yeah, there's one here I can show you. This is still not all the way dry, but these are seeds, and when they are all the way dried out, then I have just kind of been dropping them. That is not focused. Dropping them in the ground here so that I can potentially have another spinach harvest. And hopefully by the time those start to sprout and come up, these beans will be shading this area a little bit more. Yeah, those aren't quite dry yet. These might be. It's also a little dewy out here this morning. So here I have some romaine lettuce. I talked to you guys in one of the other videos about planting my lettuces really close together, and then we do just kind of a cut and come again. If you don't have a lot of space, oh, my oak leaf is going to seed here too. If you don't have a lot of space, this oak leaf is great. Obviously you can see it gets pretty tall and doesn't take up just a load of space, and that there's tons and tons and tons of lettuce on here, and clearly I need to come out here and get some of it off of here before it starts wilting. Another thing, when it's been hot like it has been, if you pick lettuce, when you take it inside, twofold kind of thing here. When you take it inside, put it in a bowl of cold water, and it will help keep it from being all limp and stuff, because that happens in the heat. And in that cold water, I also put a couple tablespoons of salt, so if there are any slugs hiding on my lettuces, then I don't eat slugs, because I'm not a fan of eating slugs. More spinach here that didn't even really get started before it started going to seed, but like I said, I'm just gonna leave that there until it dries out, and then I'll plop the seeds back down in the ground until I feel like I've got enough in there to fill this row up again. I have some more peas here with beans coming up behind them. Again, we're starting to get wilt down here at the bottom, and it won't be long before that takes over pretty much the whole plant. But I've gotten a fair amount of peas. Peas are something, it's kind of hard. I love peas fresh from the garden, but it's kind of hard to grow enough of them to really amount to much. So I'll toss them on a salad, or you know, save enough of them to make a batch of vegetable soup to can for the winter, with vegetables from the garden, because that makes me happy, to have a soup completely from my yard. But yeah, these are starting to peter out a little bit, and so like I said, I anticipated that. I knew that was gonna happen, so that's how it goes. I have my cucumbers that will be coming up over this side of the trellis. So I was saying before the train started blowing its whistle, I have my cucumbers that are going to come up this side of the trellis. This is an Armenian yard-long cucumber. It's actually a melon, but if you pick it before the skin hardens, it's more like a cucumber, and apparently they legitimately get 3 feet long or better. So I was really excited to try that last year, and it just really didn't. I had a bad year for cucumbers last year. Every time I planted them, something ate the tops off of them, and so I started them inside this year, even though that's kind of not what's recommended, because they don't like to have their roots disturbed, so that I could maybe get some cucumbers this year. And then I put in, let's see, there they are. I put in dragon's egg cucumbers and they died because they don't like having their roots disturbed. So I planted a few more seeds and they're just now sprouting. My youngest last year thought that that was the coolest thing, to eat a dragon's egg, because she'd never eaten a dragon's egg before. And then I have a lemon cuke, which looks like it's the color and the size of a lemon. And then these little guys here are, they have several different names. They're called cucamelons, they're called Mexican sour gherkins, mouse melons, they're sometimes called. They look like an itty bitty teeny, like thumb-sized watermelon. And I tried to grow those last year. Again, not a lot of success. Then I have a couple of different pickling varieties. One is a Chicago and one is a national, and I am guessing, because I tend to do things in alphabetical order so that I remember them, or in color order so that I remember them. I'm guessing the Chicago's are these guys here, and then the next set there is the national. And then I have some kind of just slicer cucumbers, the straight 8s. And then over here, I have no idea. I have a lot of this right here, friends, is Creeping Charlie. It is awful. It took over like all of my whole garden. It was carpeting it, and I was pulling it for like probably 4 days straight. But it spreads by runners above ground, and also in its roots, and also by its flower seeds. So it does not take long for it to take over just everything. And I've been pulling it out by hand because everything that I've read in terms of getting rid of it involves putting something on my garden that I just really don't want out here. I don't spray a lot. I don't use herbicides and pesticides. So I don't like spraying stuff. Every time I've sprayed anything, the minute I did, kind of the beneficial bug or whatever took over, and then I ended up scaring them away. I sprayed my fruit trees because I had aphids, and that same day I saw a ladybug, and I haven't seen a ladybug since. So I scared them away with that. I have down here in the midst of the Creeping Charlie some sort of winter squash. I am terrible. I would definitely encourage you guys to write down where you put stuff. I'm terrible about that, and then I'm always like, oh, I wish I knew which variety that was, because I planted several different varieties of winter squash. I have another one there, and another one there, and another one there, and also along the other side of this arched panel is winter squash varieties. I did some spaghetti squash. I did butternut squash. I did a honey nut squash, which is a like personal sized butternut that I've heard lots of good reviews about. I have some red express cabbage, I believe is what the majority of this row is, and some pak choy or bok choy. I don't actually remember. I'm gonna pop these little flower heads off here because these guys are still pretty teensy. And it looks like somehow in the middle of this bok choy or pak choy, whichever it is, we have some romaine sprouting. That's not uncommon. My youngest loves to help me start my seeds. And so I have an onion that is growing beside one of my pepper plants back there. I found a basil growing in the same cup as one of my pepper plants. So seeds get stuck to little fingers and big fingers too. But it's not uncommon for me to have random stuff popping up with things that I didn't plant in cups. So then I showed you guys the elderberry. I have, it's at the end of this tunnel as well. I have some other brassicas that, again, I should mark things because I have no idea. I'm assuming, I think most of what's inside of this particular tunnel is cabbage, I think. I didn't mark it. I'll find out when it starts to do what it's going to do. But right now the stuff back here is pretty small. Again, that Creeping Charlie was pretty much blanketing the inside of this tunnel, and so the plants were not getting all of the nutrients and resources they needed to do their thing. So they're all pretty puny in this particular section. So I pulled that out for the most part. I still have a couple of spots that need some help, but yeah. And then this is fun. I have tomatoes popping up here. I didn't put these tomatoes here, but I have little teensy tomato plants. My best guess, based on where they are, is that these are Thorburns terracotta, which was my favorite slicer variety from last year. So I'm not mad that we have a volunteer. The cardboard was my kneeling pad the other day when I was pulling Creeping Charlie, because it doesn't feel good to kneel down on the mulch. It's not comfy. So here are my elderberries from the other side. There are two of these. I think the variety is Marge. And I put these in last year. They got, like I said, way big, way faster than I thought they would. I'm going to have lots and lots of elderberries. I have loads of those flower areas, except I think maybe the birds have been at this one, because there's one teensy little, two little berries there. But that's kind of the risk I run, not covering them. Birds and bugs are going to eat some of my stuff. This is the goji berry, and again, I put this in last year. And this is a raspberry, and I think this is Jewel, if I'm not mistaken. So it's a purple. Excuse me. And down there on the other side of the elderberry, there's a red, and then on the other side of that, there's a gold or a white. And then I also have a Chicago hardy fig that I did not show you, but those are all down there. And then, sorry, lots of road noise. I start my 4 rows of tomatoes. I'm going to show you a few things here, if I can find a good example. Again, these over here are some winter squash. Let's see. Okay, yeah, there's a good example. So, excuse me, I use old pantyhose or tights, and I cut them up and use those to tie up my tomatoes. And then I usually, this is kind of really at an angle, but I usually pop off anything on about the bottom foot, really, so that the leaves don't come into contact with the ground. That's a good way to spread a lot of bacteria and fungus and stuff from the ground to your plants. But right here in kind of the armpit, we call it, this is a sucker, and these I pop off. So I keep my tomatoes down to a single stem as much as possible. There gets a point in the summer where it just kind of gets away from me, and I'm trying to get that to focus. It's hard to do this with one hand. So usually when they're this tiny, you can just kind of pinch them and they come right off. If these That's not focusing. If those are larger, you can root them, and you can put them in a glass of water, and they will take root, and you can plant them. You get whole free tomato plants that way. I don't know if I have any that have big suckers on them or not, because I really try to keep them under control in the beginning anyway. Again, like I said, there comes a point in the summer where it just is completely out of control, and I have a tomato jungle. Let's see. Okay, here's a good example. Right here, this one's quite large. I did not get to this one on time, and really I will not pinch that off with my fingers, because I will run the risk of doing some pretty significant damage to my plant, where again, disease, bacteria, things like that can enter the plant. So I will get some, oh, hey, that makes me happy. My first baby tomato. This is a Principe Borghese, I think. It's a drying tomato, and they are phenomenal. They're so good. Dried. I dehydrated a gallon-sized Ziploc bag of them last year, and they are so good. They're fine, fresh, but they are so good when they are dehydrated. This is a new variety that I'm trying this year, and it's called a silvery fir, and it's supposedly an early variety. It's got really kind of different looking leaves. I guess I should say this. What I'm telling you about cutting off suckers and things like that is only the case if you are growing indeterminate varieties of tomatoes. Don't do that if you have a determinate or bush style tomato, because they only get so big, and they produce a specific number of fruits, because they're determinate. The indeterminate will keep growing and keep producing as long as they have support. Which is why I have these trellises. They are probably not quite 6 feet tall, and I had some plants that probably would have, had they been standing up fully last year, probably would have been about 9 or 10 feet tall. It looks like some of these guys are, this guy's not looking too healthy, and I'm not sure if, well, it might be because it's getting choked out here by this creeping Charlie. I missed this spot apparently when I was going through here the other day. So anyway, I will probably, and my peppers also are looking a little bit sad. It may just be that it's been so hot and dry the last couple of weeks, but I have a gallon-sized pump sprayer situation that I will fill with water and add some fish emulsion to it. That's my favorite. That's my favorite. It stinks to high heaven, but it's my favorite. I love it. And I will get that sprayed on these guys and see if I can perk some of them up. I'm standing in a place that's creating a shadow. Right here, let's see if I can find a little baby okra. Here is a little baby okra. Okra's funny. It starts out slow, and then it just kind of takes off on you, and it's they turn into trees pretty quickly. Here, now I'm creating more shadows again. I have a mess of weeds. But I have some zucchini, some acorn squash, some yellow summer squash that are coming up here, starting to have some little flowers on them. This is some more of the oak leaf lettuce that I have in the back that I did not plant here this year. This volunteered from somewhere. And then I have this random, it's like a wild ground cherry, but I'm not sure if it's safe to eat, so I keep pulling it out every time it pops up. But it keeps popping up. I have a couple of black currants, and those should be ready to pick very shortly. They're starting to get soft. It's kind of an interesting fruit. It's like a cross between a grape and a blueberry. That's the best way I can describe it. I have a couple of, here's a blackberry, and here's a blackberry. And then a friend of mine gifted me a red gooseberry. Also kind of an interesting fruit. I had never had a gooseberry before, but I pulled one off that I think was ready yesterday and tasted it. It tasted like a mulberry to me, really and truly. So that was interesting. I have some more cabbages. This is that Red Express that I have in the back, and it looks way better up here than it does back there. And I think probably again that Creeping Charlie was just really suffocating it, because I will have some heads of cabbage here before too long. Obviously I have some bug damage, but again, I hate to spray, so I really just need to be more diligent about coming out here and picking off bugs when I see them. But again, I soak my cabbages in salt water to get any slugs off when I get inside. I have some more summer squash varieties here. I think this random situation here is either a carrot or a parsnip. Again, a volunteer because I didn't put it there. And then I had a funny situation. These I believe are garlic, but I don't remember anyway planting garlic here. So I'm not sure how they got there. So that's a fun situation. And then I had some onions that I don't know if when I went to pull them up last year, I just popped the heads off of them and then left them down in the ground, or if the heads got trampled or the tops of them got trampled or eaten off by rabbits or whatever else. So I had onions that had overwintered in my garden last year, so that was fun. I pulled those up and we've eaten those already, and they were delicious. I have some rutabaga, right? Yes. Rutabaga here. I have two different types. I have the American Purple Top, and I have Navone Yellow. Trying to see if there's anything to see in here or not. I sewed them like super thickly because I have bugs dive bombing me. I sewed them super thickly when I put them out here because I've had issues with birds eating my seeds, particularly for stuff like this. So I was like, well, I'll throw out a whole bunch of extras and then the birds can have some, and then hopefully we'll still get some rutabaga. And rutabaga is really an interesting kind of vegetable if you've never had it before. I'd never had it before, so I planted it so that I could have it. It kind of, a lot of people mash it like a potato, but I think it kind of tastes like broccoli. I don't know. I think it tastes like broccoli. So I cut some up the other night and put it in a frying pan with just a little bit of oil so it wouldn't stick, and some salt and pepper, and kind of made like home fried type things with them. And I thought it was good. My husband thought it was kind of bland, but I don't know. Oh, but like I said, a lot of people like boil them and mash them like potatoes. So yeah, they're kind of interesting. Let's see, what else do I have to show you? I have some bush beans over here, and I also have trash and more Creeping Charlie. I really enjoy planting a variety of different beans. The beans always, usually anyway, like the purple ones. Oh shoot, I just uprooted a bean plant trying to pull out the Creeping Charlie. It's not the first time that's happened. So I like to plant different colors of things because it just makes it fun. Like these are a purple variety. I can't remember the name of them. When you cook them, they turn green. It's kind of disappointing, but it's fun to pull purple beans out of the garden. So I don't have just a whole ton of plants. I usually do some bush beans just to get some green beans going pretty quickly, because we really like them in our house. And then by the time those bush beans peter out, the pole beans will be starting to kind of do their thing. And then I will probably plant another small thing of bush beans towards the end of the season, just because I can. This is my mess of a strawberry patch here. And last year there were rows when I put this in, but they didn't stay a thing. So these little runners here will spread out everywhere from strawberries, and I've been trying to just tuck them back into the mass of this because I can't really afford to give my strawberries any more space. So I've been tucking them back into the big mess of plants, and that will sprout a new plant. And that's probably why this is a big mess and doesn't have any rows, because there's all the runners are tucked back into the mess. And I did that last year too, and so it will continue to be a mess, and that's just fine. My strawberries are pretty much done. I ordered from a company. Most of my fruit bushes and plants, if they weren't gifted to me, came from a company called Indiana Berry and Plant. I love them. That's where everything comes from. They're pretty close to where I live. It takes me a half hour to get out there, so I pick my stuff up instead of having it shipped. And that's where where these strawberry plants came from. I bought 100 plants. I bought what was called the all-season collection, and so the idea is that throughout the strawberry season, you have kind of a continuous ripening. Every week or so, a different variety becomes ripe. And from those 100 plants, I did not have space. There's a couple of guys that are still out here. I probably need to come out and check on them. But pretty much the strawberries are done for. Of the 100 plants, I did not have room for all of them. I only had room, I think, for I want to say 60 of them, 15 of which are over here in this bed, and I really don't think that I gave them nearly enough space. And so the strawberries on these guys were pretty teensy. I don't know how to pronounce the variety, but it's recommended that you grow them in a container, and so I did, and they didn't have enough space, and so the strawberries were really tiny, and it was kind of sad. But I'm going to try and figure out a different plan and get these moved either in the late fall or early spring before they come out of, like in the late fall when they go dormant, or in the early spring before they come out of dormancy. I'm going to figure out a different plan so that they have a little bit more space. Here, I'm creating a shadow again. Here I have a horseradish plant. You can use the leaves, you can cook the leaves, but the root is where the horseradish comes from, and I'm not entirely sure how I'm gonna harvest that, I guess, yet. I need to do a little bit more research, but I love horseradish. My husband loves horseradish, so the roots, again, came from Indiana berry, and they were pretty cheap, so I figured I'd buy a couple of them. This mess here is radishes that went to seed, and so I'm waiting for, they will get those seed pods also. Like this, they will, these will dry out and get really brittle, and I'll crack those open and pull seeds from those. My cat is a terror, and she has been using the rest of this bed that was full of carrots and leeks and radishes. She's been using that for a litter box. So I have a carrot and a couple of radishes, and I have zero desire to eat those things. So what I am going to do is wait for the carrot to go to seed, which will be next year. Actually, carrots are biennial plants, so it will be next year before I get the seeds from that, but I'm going to save the seeds from it. And then this area here, I have another horseradish. And then I put in this asparagus this year. And I got to tell you, I was talking to the owner of, I got these from Indiana Berry as well. I was talking to the owner, and I said, I almost called because I followed the directions. I dug the trench and I put the plants in and I covered them up by 2 inches. And I waited and I waited and I waited, and nothing happened. And then nothing happened, and I was going to call and be like, okay, what did I do wrong? And then all of a sudden they just shot up out of nowhere. And asparagus, this is what it looks like. If you don't pick it, it gets really tall and ferny if you've never seen it. And you don't want to pick anything from it the first year. You want to let it get its roots established. That's really kind of true of just about any perennial plant. You want to, with berries, you want to pinch off the flower buds and just let them establish their roots for the first year before you pick anything. But then, yeah, so this whole section here in front of the strawberries is asparagus. I'm hoping that what happens is that these asparagus kind of fill in this center section. Not sure that will happen, but down here, let's see if I can get it to focus. Yeah, down here, this is more of what you all are probably think of when you think of asparagus. So that's a decent sized little spear for the first year of production, but again, I'm going to leave that alone, let those roots really get established, and so next year we can start picking some spears. Not just a whole lot probably, but in a couple of years we'll have asparagus until we're sick of asparagus, so that's exciting. Down here I have my blueberry bushes. Blueberries are kind of notoriously difficult. They like really acidic soil. They can survive in less acidic soil, but they do prefer acidic soil. This guy looks pretty happy. I just put this one in this year. Again, this is an Elliott. I can't tell you the difference between these guys. They ripen at different times. This is a Blu-ray. I have this sad stick here. Let's see, can I focus? Yes, this sad stick here was in a front flower bed, and clearly it wasn't doing very well. It may be all the way dead. I'm gonna give it some time and give it some nutrients and see if I can't bring it back from the brink of death. I have kind of a no-no situation happening here. The red berries that you can maybe see. It's hard for me to see with the sun. These are black raspberries. And these here that have some berries but are not changing colors yet. These are red raspberries, and you're really, I think, not supposed to plant these guys that close together. In all fairness, I didn't plant these guys this close together. That I remember anyway. Raspberries do this fun thing where they spread, and I will see if I can show you kind of how that works. I dug out a bunch of the new stuff and moved it. But if you can, oh jeez, if you can see here, this is green, and then if you look back here, this woody. So these green ones came up out of the ground this year, and there's probably 6 of those sprouts that came up out of the ground this year from the red raspberry. And the black raspberry started over here somewhere, and honestly, I didn't think it was going to make it, and then it just kind of popped up, and it's gone kind of wild, and it's should be trellised, and it's not, and so it's this wild twisty mess that's taking over the red raspberries and the blueberries and the strawberries. And so I dug some of those sprouts out and moved them as well, knowing full well that I was going to kill, well, not kill, but I would not get a harvest. Well, I wouldn't be getting a harvest from those anyway this year. So yeah, I'm kind of losing my train of thought. I got distracted for a second. So I pulled those out and moved them and cut them down. If you dig, sorry, lots of road noise. If you dig these out, then you would want to cut them down and replant them somewhere else. You want to cut them down to pretty much ground level. You want to make sure you're watering them a whole bunch, unless it's raining, watering them a whole bunch. Mulching them is a good idea as well to kind of retain some of that moisture. Up here I ran out of room for all the pepper varieties that I planted. So I put them in these pots that I snagged for free last year. And they are doing okay-ish, not great, but okay-ish. I need to probably put a little bit of fertilizer in there. And this is my green stalk. And for the most part, I plant herbs in here because it's right outside the back door. I just really like the idea of being able to open the door and grab some fresh herbs to make dinner. We have a few different types of basil. This guy's starting to go to seed here. I'll pinch that off. Oh, that smells wonderful. I have this hope that someday I will be able to grow a lot of basil really successfully. It hasn't happened yet, but I do have basil out by my tomatoes as well. I was just smelling my fingers. They smell so good. I love the smell of basil. So yeah, I have basil out by my tomato plants as well. And some of that's doing well. The stuff on the west side of the garden is doing a lot better than the stuff on the east side of the garden. For whatever reason, I think it gets a little bit of shade, a little bit more shade in the hottest parts of the day. So that might be why it's just not getting scorched to the degree that the stuff on the east side of the garden is. But yeah, that's pretty much a brief tour of what I have going on. Over up against the house over here on the other side of me, I have some ground cherries growing. My oldest hates tomatoes but really likes ground cherries. They're kind of the cherry tomato version of tomatillo, and I think they're weird. I think they're really weird. They're way too sweet. I don't like them. But my oldest likes them. She doesn't like tomatoes, but she likes those. And then I have some onions over here. I have some Brussels sprouts, I think. And I have some tomato plants that just kind of volunteered out of nowhere. Like honestly, kind of out of nowhere. I'm not really sure how they got there. I have tomato plants all over the place that I'm not really sure how they got there. And then there are others that make sense based on where I had tomato plants last year. Up by my grapevines, I have a couple because I had tomatoes there last year, and so it makes sense that, you know, fruit would have fallen and rotted and reseeded itself. So, yeah, that's what we have going on out here. I would say, honestly, in terms of planning space and planting things, the sooner that you focus on perennials like the asparagus, like the berries, fruit trees, grapevines, those kinds of things, the sooner that those things go in the ground, the sooner that you have food that you don't have to work for as much moving forward. I will have to obviously prune berry bushes and move new sprouts from the raspberries as time goes on. I will need to do some maintenance in the strawberry patch area. I will need to come out in the early winter and cut the ferns off of the asparagus, but it's easy compared to some other things that, you know, require you to plant every year. And I don't know if I said this, but my strawberry patch this year, from those 60 plants, and 15 of which did not really do a whole lot. So 45 plants, from 45 plants, I got over 50 pounds of strawberries this year, and they were delicious. And the one variety, I think it's the Jewel variety, is a larger variety, and so it's, you know, they were the great big berries that always look really exciting in the grocery store, and then you get them home and they taste like disappointment. They did not taste like disappointment. They were amazing, super flavorful. So the other ones, let me try that again. The other ones were kind of smaller to average size, but the Jewel ones were really exciting for both me and my girls, because they were giant and they didn't taste like nothing. They tasted like strawberries, and that was fun. I feel like this is a lot of really rambly nonsense at this point. So I am going to sign off of here. If you guys have any questions, please leave them in the comments, and I will do my best to answer those in the future. Happy gardening.